Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ernie Alima, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the translation section for GCSE languages. In this video I'm going to be giving you some advice and some tips on how you can prepare in the last few days, and also what you can do on the day of the exam to maximise your marks in the translation section. Before we get into the video, if you find it useful, please give it a like and also comment down below any other tips or advice that you have for the translation section, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be much appreciated. But now let's get right into the video. So the first tip that I would recommend is to learn as much vocab as you can in the last few days. So the best way to do this, in my opinion, would be through flashcards. So I'll link down below the flashcards on Quizlet. For AQA, French, German and Spanish, this has all of the vocab that could come up in the exam. If you're unable to look at all of these flashcards for whatever reason, I would recommend taking a look at your own specification, as usually there will be a list of vocab that could come up. So I know for AQA, they give a list of all of the words for higher and for foundation that could come up for French, German and Spanish. So you can take a look at these words and have a look and skim over, see if there are words that you don't recognise. Chances are you'll know most of the words by now, but if there are any words that you don't know, it's very useful to just go over and familiarise yourself with those words that you don't know. The next tip would be to focus on grammar. So the best way to learn grammar would be to focus on your weaknesses first. The best way to do this is to find a list of all of the grammar for your language. So on the specification again, there'll be a list of all the grammar you need to know. So take a look at this list and highlight the areas that you're weak on and the areas that you need to practice more with. Once you've done that, use sources like BBC Bitesize, YouTube, and other resources like textbooks to help you improve on those areas of grammar. This is because in the translation, not only do you need to know words, you need to know how to put them into sentences. The next tip would be to practice as much as you can. So translation is a skill. You'll get better by doing it regularly. And especially with the GCSE translation, there are many patterns and things that come up a lot. So what I'd recommend is to try and challenge yourself and do 3 translations a day. The best way that you can do this is by doing a translation before each meal. So before breakfast, you could do a translation. Before lunch, you could do one, and before dinner. This way, you're doing as much practice as you can, and you'll begin to notice patterns. You'll begin to correct yourself when you know your mistakes and your weaker areas. And I would recommend also varying, so doing into English and also translating from English. The source of translations, a very good source would be past papers from your own exam board. But once you finish those, I would recommend going to other exam boards because they also have very, very similar content. So if you're doing AQA, take a look at Edexcel or OCR past papers. Another source would be revision workbooks and textbooks. And also you can use ChatGPT if you're looking for extra practice. That's very good for giving example translations for you. We're now going to move on to some exam tips to help you on the day of the exam. The first tip would be, don't forget about the translation. This can be very easy, especially as the translation usually is at the end of the paper. So I know for AQA, you're going to have the translation from English on the writing exam, and then you're going to have the translation into English at the end of the reading exam. So don't forget about it and don't leave it to the last minute. Make sure you set aside some time to do the translation. The next bit of advice for the exam would be to read the instructions carefully. So usually at the top of the translation, it'll give you a bit of context just to let you know what it's talking about in the translation. And this can actually help you in case you're confused about what they're talking about. It gives you an idea of the sort of words that you're looking to translate from and into. A second piece of advice would be to read the instructions carefully. So at the top of the translation, you'll usually get a mini introduction to what they're going to be talking about. So take a read of this, highlight it, because it will help you to understand the topic and set the tone for the translation, and can also help you if you're confused about what they're talking about. I would recommend reading the whole text first, because this will enable you to get a sense of the meaning of the text and also the structure. An additional tip would be to translate in chunks, not word by word. So breaking it into small phrases is more useful than trying to match each word directly, because this won't always make sense if you try and do it that way. So definitely translate in chunks, not word by word. Don't leave any blanks. If you're unsure, you can make an educated guess. You get marks for each small section, not for the whole translation. At least for AQA, that's the case. so a good guess would be better than writing nothing. As a last resort, if you're stuck, you can use the rest of the paper to help you. What you could do, you could take a look back and see if any words or phrases or grammatical structures appear earlier in the paper. This is more relevant for the reading paper. So if you're stuck and you have time, you can take a look at these to see if that will help you translate in your paper. But it's not always guaranteed, but it's nice to try if you have the time to. The next tip would be to pay attention to the small things. So what I mean by this is it's very easy to miss small words like articles or maybe a negative, because the translations tend to be at the end of the exam. You tend to be more tired, but these small things can matter and can change the meaning of the sentence a lot. So it's important that you take a look at these and make sure you don't miss them out. When translating, make sure you take note of the tense and the verb conjugations. This is vital. And this is one of the biggest reasons that marks get lost during the translations, because verbs don't always match the subject or they don't agree, and the verbs need to be in the correct tense. Final tips would be to stay calm and manage your time, and also to review your work at the end if you can. This is when you can notice any mistakes that you've made, and also to make sure that you haven't missed anything out, like what I mentioned before, the small things, including agreements or any other things that you missed out before. We have now reached the end of the video. If you found it useful, please give it a like. And if you have any other tips and tricks for the translation section, please leave them down below. Also take a look at the description of this video because I've put down some resources. But that's everything for today. So thank you for watching and good luck.